بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أجل الحق على قلبي ولساني وارزقنا إخلاص في كل قول وعمل. Shall we continue on with Surah al-ʿAʿrāf? Today we have verse 177 where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ساء مثلا القوم الذين كذبوا بآياتنا وأنفسهم كانوا يظلمون. Before I go actually into this verse, if you have your mushaf, that's good, because I need to take you to a quick journey, inshallah. We're not going to cover many verses, but it's extremely important to kind of close off this set of verses. So if you do have your mushaf, you have your Quran, please take a look at it. Why? Because we're going to go all the way in the beginning of the page. And I'll go very quickly with you. And I might ask you also for a translation, so be prepared, inshallah. From the beginning of this verse, on this page, which is 171, we're going to go a very quick journey. We're not going to go in details because these are all been covered. But I just want you to continue on with what the context that we've been talking about is. Because at the end, when this comes, it's very clear what we've been talking about and how did we come to this point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this page, like in this page, 171, it says, وَإِذْ نَتَقْنَا الْجَبَلَ فَوْقَهُمْ. I'll actually do the English one. It said, and remember when we raised the mountain over them as if it were a cloud, and then they thought it would fall on them. We said, hold firmly to the scripture which we have given you and observe teachings, so perhaps you will become mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah talking to Bani Israel, taking a covenant from them. A covenant. He said, you follow this guidance, the scripture that I have given you. The next verse right after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then remember, when your Lord brought forth from the loins of children of Adam, their descendants, and have them testify regarding themselves. Allah asked, am I not your Lord? They replied, yes, you are. We testify. He cautioned, now you have no right to say on the day of judgment, we were not aware of this. Nor say it was our forefathers who have associated or had associated others with Allah in worship, and we, as their descendants, follow in their footsteps. Will you then destroy us for the falsehood they invented? The way I see this verse, Imam Majid mentioned that also yesterday. This is a foundational verse. Scholars talk about this being the fitrah, the innate nature Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created on us. But I also see it that this was another covenant. Allah just talked about the covenant of Bani Israel. Now we're talking about a covenant with who? All of us. Allah asks what? Am I not your Lord? Everyone says, yes. For sure. It's the covenant that we have all taken to say, we testify that there's only one Allah subhanahu, one God that is worthy of worship. So, continuation on, Allah gives the covenant, we take this covenant, and it's also a form of what for us? Everyone has this nature, which is a form of what? Of guidance for us. This nature says what? There's only one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is worthy of our worship. Allah continues, and this is how we make the signs clear. So perhaps they will return to the right path. Allah has shown us these signs, Allah put us this innate nature, and they can make it, said this is the path that it should be very clear for us. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the example in 175 and 176 that Imam Majid covered yesterday. He said it's that of this person. Allah gave an example of a person who what? And then relate to them, O Muhammad, the story of one whom we gave our signs. Allah gave the signs, the ayat. But he abandoned them. So shaitan took over him and he became a deviant. If we had willed, we would have elevated him with our signs, but he clung to this life. Following the evil desires, his example is that of a dog. If you chase it away, it pants. And if you leave it, it still pants. This is the example of the people who deny our signs. So narrate to them the stories of the past, so perhaps they will reflect. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, took the covenant. Here's the covenant we took from all humanity. Took the covenant of Bani Israel. We took a covenant from all of the humanity. Now you have no excuse because I put this in you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives another example. He said, but hold on. There's something that you have to be very reflective upon. This is an example of someone Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided what? Ayat. The signs. We'll talk about the word ayat in a second. But you can think about it, these ayat are like different forms of guidance. So this person received the guidance. But what did he choose to do with it? Let it go. فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا. He said he completely dismissed it and he completely let it go. And he'd rather stay again and cling to this earth and what's low. Meaning this earth, meaning what's low, not what's something high, going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's something that is worldly. He wants to hold on to this what's worldly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the example of this person to say what? It's like the dog. Why? I don't know if you've seen any dogs, but I'm pretty sure everyone's seen a dog before. If you have not seen a dog, talk to me afterwards. Okay? But I'm pretty sure you've seen a dog. Us humans, if you've ever done any kind of like tough, rough physical activity, let's say you go sprinting. After we're done running, put a lot of activities, right? You open your mouth a little bit and you start, true? But usually, when we're sitting around like this, we're breathing from our nose, nice and calm, easy. If you've ever seen a dog, the dog, regardless of what the state is, tongue out, and they're always like breathing, right? I don't want to take my tongue out so it doesn't look good. Okay, but you see the point. Right? That's the dog. Guidance comes, Allah gave the example of a dog. He says someone has the guidance. They can follow the guidance. But before the guidance, they were misguided. They didn't follow. And after the guidance came, what? They still didn't follow. But did the guidance make it to them or not? Yes. The guidance came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, give the example. It says, we have brought to them our ayat, this person, as an example. We've brought to them our ayat. But before, they were what? Yalhat. They were doing what the dogs are. Before, they were misguided. After, they were still misguided. Good? The guidance came. They chose not to follow this guidance. And they became, before and after, the same exactly. They didn't benefit from the guidance. And that's why in this our verse that we're talking about here, what? 177. سَاءَ مَثَلِ الْقَوْمُ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَأَنفُسَهُمْ كَانُوا يَظْلِمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what an evil example of those who denied our sight. They only wronged their own souls. This example, as Imam Majid mentioned as well yesterday, even though the Mufassirin talk about a specific person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm going to give you the example of a person, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now says, is that what a bad example of that, what? This example of being like this dog, not following the guidance, before receiving the guidance and after receiving the guidance, you're still within the same state of misguidance. What a terrible example. What an evil example. Of that, not just a person, but al-qawm. Anyone, the people that do not follow this. Because don't take it as the one thing they'll say, we're talking about someone else. It says, no, whoever, as a group of people, the qawm, whoever did not follow this, they fall into this bad example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us how bad of an example, how evil of an example that is. Right? To be compared to a dog. Right? In not following the guidance, in that sense, right? But also, we said the other verse talks about what? That they cling to the earth. I'm pretty sure, again, a lot of us, if I tell you you're a dog, I don't think that you take that as a compliment, okay? There are good things in dogs, by the way. I believe that there's, I can't remember what it was like, there's the name of a book, but there was a book that talks about what do you call it? One of our Muslim scholars was talking about, like sometimes that we dismiss the dog, but the dog has much better qualities that we can actually follow. So basically don't underestimate or don't like go around dissing the dog. At the end of the day, by the way, it's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's saying don't look down upon it where you can actually learn from it, but sometimes we're doing things that might be actually lower in that sense from a dog. And we're going to come in the next couple of verses, we'll talk about also the example Allah gives us. But this is سَاءَ مَثَلٍ الْقَوْمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what a terrible and evil example that is for those who what? الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. Those who denied our signs.
The word signs, which we mentioned multiple times before, but let's repeat it because it's important, can be mentioned or can be meant for three things. The first thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created different signs for us in the universe. We look out there and say, subhanAllah, look at this tree. How did this come about? How this beautiful it is. You see flowers. You see creation of Allah, the heavens and the earth. And these are all different signs from the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of us to look at and contemplate and reach the conclusion. This beautiful, perfect type of creation and system has to come from the Lord. The one and only. So that's a form of sign. The second meaning of signs means what? All of the different things, miracles that have been sent to prophets. It's another form to prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to prove that the prophets are true or truthful, because they come with something that is way beyond our human capacity. It has to have come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to prove their truthfulness, right? So that's another kind of sign. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have told us around all of these signs around here, like in His book of guidance, right? And the third type of signs is the actual book. We see this is ayat, right? The ayah, one verse, in every one of them is a sign. It's a proof from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the path as well. So those who are said, كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا, as if they rejected all of this. They rejected just whatever the signs that we see, the physical or the creation signs. They rejected the miracles that they might have seen with their own eyes or they heard about it in the book. And they rejected the verses of the Quran itself, the guidance that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are rejecting all of this. And that's why what a terrible example that is. The guidance came to them by rejecting all of this. And then not only that, and then وَكَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وكذبوا بآياتنا نعم تأسف كذبوا بآياتنا وأنفسهم كانوا يظلمون وأنفسهم كانوا يظلمون. When someone rejects all of this, sometimes they think, especially again these people who are rejectors or people maybe that want to give us a hard time, people in Quraysh giving Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam a hard time and rejecting it. Sometimes they think what? They're hurting the person they're rejecting. They're hurting the message itself. None of these people are either hurting Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning what? They're hurting by rejecting, but what happens to the message afterwards? These people are all history, and the message went on. Who are they really hurting with this rejection? It's themselves. It's themselves. And subhanAllah, it's not just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, and they have rejected our verses, our ayat, our signs, and they hurt themselves. If you have a translation, please, I want you to look at the translation. Now it's the translation time. The translation, I read a couple translations. Some said, and they hurt themselves. This translation from the Clear Quran, he actually said something that's beautiful. It says what? What an evil example of those who denied our signs. They only wrong their own souls. They only wrong their own souls. The word only is not in the text. In Arabic, there's no one only. But the structure of the sentence gives us this meaning. And as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what? It said, not only that they didn't hurt anyone else, but let's say it's exclusively, they only hurt themselves. وَأَنفُسَهُمْ كَانُوا يَظْلِمُونَ. This structure means is like, because I can say, I hurt myself, and I hurt the next guy. I can say and, right? Conjugation. It said, I hurt myself. If I stop there, you do not understand that I could have hurt someone else. Sometimes we even use it when we say the word shahada. It said, La ilaha illallah, right? Right? Or it said, we want to say that there's no God. You negate first and then say, except for Allah. To make it kind of firm, to make it exclusive of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this structure as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that themselves are the ones they hurt. Themselves only are the ones they hurt. And I want to emphasize this. It said because it's showing that what? This is something that is beyond the human understanding. Sometimes when we go not follow the guidance, Allah is reminding us that you're not, by this you and I not follow the guidance or anyone not following the guidance, you're not hurting anyone except yourself. And sometimes we look at ourselves, again, subhanAllah, people say that a lot of us, inshallah none of us here, but we're all always thankful, but some people, when they look at some of the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them, sometimes they're not very grateful. They look at it and they say, I wish I had this better car. Oh, look at this person has this house. This. But between us here, and I want you to reflect on this. Take my word for it, but I want you to reflect on it afterwards. How many of us go around and they think negatively of their intellect? Everyone, actually, for the most part, at least everyone thinks they're smart enough, they're good enough. My opinion is very good. My intellect is pretty good. Something, it's a bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we all, to a certain extent, feel comfortable with. Nobody walks in, not say nobody, maybe there's a few exceptions, but almost everyone thinks is like, my mind, my intellect, I'm good, it's great. I have nothing to complain about. Other things you might be complaining about, but this one, everyone thinks well of themselves. They think well of their intellect. And Allah is telling us, as intellectual people, you are hurting no one and nothing else but you. Because the system's still going on, the guidance is still going on, whether you accept it or not. And that takes us to this last verse in this day. مَن يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ الْمُهْتَدِي وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Whoever Allah guides is truly guided. And whoever He leaves to stray, they are the true losers. After all of this, when I started with the beginning of the page, because I hope you still remember this now. All of what we've been talking about was Allah providing guidance, taking a covenant, example of someone rejecting. But I mentioned that in itself, the fitrah that Allah, the covenant that Allah has taken with us, the fitrah is a form of guidance. The book and the revelation is a form of guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the example was rejection. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَن يَهْدِ اللَّهُ, whoever Allah guides is rightly guided. This hidayah has to be understood in this context as well. Meaning what? Because people sometimes misunderstand. It says if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to guide me, I'm going to be rightly guided, right? So I don't need to do anything. It says no. Hidayah, the word guidance, has multiple meanings. It has different levels or angles. Some put it as 2. Maybe I'll put it as 3. There's 3 levels of guidance. One we can call hidayah amma, general guidance. And this general guidance is not just for us humans, for everything that is creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in us some map, some direction. That's how you see animals living. They know what to do. They know where to go. Us humans as well, we have this general guidance about what we need. We have some innate nature. General guidance for everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put fitrah for everyone. There's another level of guidance. He called it hidayat al-dalala. It's directional, to give you a direction. And they give a beautiful example of this. This beautiful example, they say, imagine you're trying to go from here to Leesburg. Not far. You might go outside of Route 7 and you're going to find a big sign that says, Leesburg, X number of miles. This is a general sign, right, that is there. Everyone they do not deny it. It's there. You see it. But a general guidance. Some people sometimes like me, I see a sign, maybe I'm not feeling hungry. Like, 1, what is 12 miles? What does that mean, right? I need a little bit more. So imagine you're driving this way, you want to go to Leesburg, someone stops you. And they stop you and say, you need to go to Leesburg. You know what? Go like 5 exits down and then take next right. For very specific guidance, someone stops you and he says, you need to go that. That's an example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending a prophet. We have our innate nature that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only one. This is the fitrah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His utmost mercy, sends us even more guidance. Hidayat al-dalala. This is the direction, to give us the direction. From the prophets, with a book of guidance. I said, you know what? 5 exits down, you take a right. That's where you find Leesburg. It's now up to you and I. We can say, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the guidance, and I'll follow the instructions. Or I can say, man, you have no idea. You don't know what you're talking about. I'll just take it on my own. 5 exits, I'm not going to take this 5. I'm not going to listen to that guy. What does he know? I know better. That's a rejection. But subhanAllah, if you would have followed, because this is a form of guidance, the guidance already came. You followed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases you in guidance. And this is the 3rd level of guidance. Now, hidayat al-tawfiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala And this is, by the way, this comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, and this is something that we have to also reflect upon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He says what? وَإِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. O Muhammad, you guide to the straight path. Good? We all agree? We all agree, right? Another verse comes, says what? إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You do not guide whomever you love. Does Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam guide or doesn't guide? Are you following me? Two verses. One says, you guide to the straight path. The other guy says, you do not guide whoever you love. Does He guide or doesn't guide? He guides the second. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses. He said, your job is to do the second level of guidance that we talked about. You show the path. You deliver the message. The message came clear, sounding clear? Yes. This is the guidance. Now you choose to reject. That's the third level of guidance. He says, oh, but you're not controlling this. That's now in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do your job and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides afterwards. So that's the guidance. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَن يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ الْمُهْتَدِي, whoever Allah guides, this full package of guidance now, are the ones that are truly guided. وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. But those who choose not to. So don't expect it as what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forcing us. No. The guidance came to you and I, and we chose to reject. And at that point, we have went astray. And we did not go astray against the will of Allah. This is something extremely important as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the choice. Allah commanded us to do something. But after the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gave us the choice. Said, here's the clear commandment. You do that, you're going to have a reward. Believe in me, in my Prophet, and follow the guidance, you have a reward. Don't believe in me, don't follow the Prophet, you're going to have a punishment. Now it's your choice. Both of them are the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning what? Allah gave us the choice. So if we choose the other path, then we're not going against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas we're choosing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the power to choose from. And that, at this point, if you choose misguidance, then أُولَٰئِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. These are the truly losers. After all of this guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, not to choose this path. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Majid, before I go, what else do I need to add? Anything? Okay. Anything that I said correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything that I've said mistakenly, that is from my own shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the guidance in this world, and give us the guidance in the hereafter, that we follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Jannah, show us our way to Jannah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who reflect upon His verses. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His signs in the universe and in the Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us among those who are rightly guided, that He increase our guidance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who reflect upon the Quran, understand it, and implement it in their lives. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, protect our families, and give us all and all our loved ones this beautiful guidance, that we let us live as mu'mineen, as believers, and die as mu'mineen, as believers, and that we meet with Him and He's pleased with us, and He admits us to the highest level of Jannah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate all of the suffering and hardship that our brothers and sisters in Gaza and everywhere else in the world are passing by. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He provide them food, provide them shelter, He provide them drink. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease all of their affairs. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them the beautiful patience they have been showing and increase them in that. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gives them the highest level of Jannah as a reward for their patience and all this hardship that they pass by. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us all and make us among those who are rightly guided. Jazakumullah khairan wa assalamu alaikum.